maybe butcher the pronunciation of this, doxycycline post-exposure prophylaxis,
Okay.
doxyprep. So
Okay.
doxycycline 200 milligrams, if you have it within 24 to 72 hours of sex without a condom, it's been shown to significantly the occurrence of syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea amongst cisgendered men who have sex with men and trans women as well.
Oh.
So they are really just hoping that by rolling out doxyprep, doxycycline post-exposure prophylactics,
Mm-hmm.
laxis, doxyprep is how I'm going to just refer to it from now on because it's quite difficult to say as a medical word. But yeah, that's essentially it. They are hoping to make it available as a healthcare measure. You
Okay.
know, if you've gone and had intimate relations,
Mm-hmm.
we shall use that phrase,
A night of
then
indiscretion
a night of indiscretion,
with a
um,
gentleman caller.
with yes, we're all of the euphemisms. But after your indiscreet evening with a gentleman caller, as long as in the next 1 to 3 days you know find an appropriate pharmacy or healthcare provider and get access to doxypep, is they believe going to be a huge effective tool to drop the overall rate of syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. Now,
Hmm.
will this solve and cure the problem? Probably not. But what
Yeah.
I think they're banking on is if enough people take this medication once they've been exposed to it
Mm-hmm.
by exposing themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then they will stop the sort of incidence rates of it.
Yep.
If there are less people
Fewer.
marauding around, you're right, they aren't lesser people just because they have gonorrhea. If there are fewer people
Uh-huh.
marauding around with gonorrhea,
Uh-huh.
then fewer people are likely to catch it. And slowly,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, we can kind of, you know, have that trending downwards towards zero.
Yeah,
So,
those diseases are all bacterial, and
mhm,
bacterial diseases, their transmission is kind of funny that way. Like bacterial infections, actually fungal infections as well, are really weird in that sometimes you just fight off. Like there could be some deadly flesh-eating bacteria that you just lick right off a lollipop and nothing happens to you. And if you can drop the exposure, then just the randomness, the noise of how many people get exposed to something and catch nothing, that
mm,
alone will sort of overtake the spread, and the overall number will shrink over time. Even if only, let's say half of the population is very compliant with it, that's enough to make a downward slope. Not a strong downward slope as everyone taking it, but you'll get a downward slope.
I mean, it also, I think, will help with what has been coined super gonorrhea,
Mm-hmm.
which is gonorrhea with a cape. But no, it's a antibiotic resistant gonorrhea.
Yeah.
It's a major issue, and has emerged in a few isolated cases here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But if the prevalence overall in the
Yeah.
community of gonorrhea goes down, then the chances of a super gonorrhea also go down with it, or
Yes.
rather, a antibacterial resistant strain of gonorrhea will
Mm-hmm.
also go down with it.
Yeah.
Now, the CDC rolled out a proposal in 2023 in October. I believe we mentioned it in October. As far as I'm aware, right now, Health Canada has not rolled out similar guidance yet in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
However, the New York City Health Department, I think, is the first one now to look at the use of doxycycline post-exposure prophylactics, or doxypep, as an effective tool here. So we'll keep an eye out. Will
Yep.
this be the end of super gonorrhea? We shall see. In other news,
Other
the
news.
individual who committed one of the most horrific mass murders against LGBT folks at the Club Q in Colorado Springs back in November 2022 has pled guilty to 74 charges
Ooh.
and 50 federal hate, 74 charges, sorry, of which are 50 federal hate crimes and 24 firearms violations. Now, this individual, I'm not going to name him, was potentially facing the death sentence,
Mm-hmm.
but in a plea agreement, that will not be the case. He is likely to serve I think he has multiple concurrent life sentences and another 190-year prison sentence on top of that. That's
Yeah.
always boggled my mind about the United States. You're sentenced to prison for 5 billion years, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm not a vampire. Like that's
I mean,
you
yeah,
know.
I was gonna say eggs on their face if they're a chupacabra.
This is true. This is
Yeah.
true. But yeah, no, he essentially pled guilty. I'm on the fence here. What the crime he committed was utterly horrific.
Yeah.
19, sorry, 5 people were killed and 19 people were injured in this
Gravely injured.
shooting.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific. It was hate motivated. But by pleading guilty, it's not, these things are going to be dragged out in court. The families are sort of spared that, and I think he gets to keep his life. That seems to be the bargain that has been brokered
Hmm.
with prosecutors. So yeah, pretty big day on in terms of the justice on that front. What about yourself? Have you seen anything coming up in the world of news?
I have, but just a story that we're keeping an eye on that we may come back to in the future. And it's just sort of a larger report on the sort of declining quality of healthcare that a lot of LGBTQ people in Canada are reporting, that there's just a sort of a trend of doctors not really listening to the symptoms and really just saying, "Oh, you are a whatever," then the problem's there. Like, oh, you're trans, then it must be the hormones you're taking. Oh, you're gay, it must be an STI. But we'll get to that in a later week as more information comes in.
I want to mention that Huang Xi, who is a member of the Democratic Progressive Party of Taiwan,
Oh yes.
has been elected. She is purportedly the first ever openly LGBTQ legislator in Taiwan. Also, we heard some grumblings out of Greece. I think we'd mentioned before that Greece is looking at introducing same sex marriage, much to the chagrin of the Greek Orthodox Church. However, the official party in power as well now, and this is what came out recently, a statement from the official opposition party, both are agreed on introducing legislation to create same sex marriage. And then also in Europe this week, big news as 397 European parliamentarians, or the Parliament of Europe, sorry, with 121 against, passed a motion asking the Council of Europe to introduce legislation around hate crimes and hate speech in Europe. This will need to be drafted, it'll need to be written and created. But essentially, some countries in Europe, such as Ireland and a few others, don't have any protections in place against hate speech and hate crimes. And there's been a massive spike in hate speech and hate crimes.
Hmm.
Although, really, I don't know if they would be hate crimes if they're not criminalized, but you get what I mean across Europe. So yeah, the EU appears to be gearing up to address that issue across the continent. Yeah, lots going on.
Hmm.
Absolutely lots going on.
Closing out, I have a very fluffy story. Subwoofer has been unmasked.
Oh, the give my wolf a banana
Yes, the
fame.
Eurovision duo who did not speak and only sang, and they showed up in masks. It is such a fluffy story, but it was two previous contestants in Eurovision. So it was Gaute Armoson and from Norway, and Ben Adams from England, who's also in the boy band A1. And
Oh wow.
they wrote this goofy song. They couldn't find anyone to perform it for them, and they realized they had to do it themselves. So they
I
taught
mean,
themselves how to
it
dance.
was a banger. Like it was one of my favorite tracks.
It was so
Unfortunately,
goofy.
it is give that wolf a banana or give my wolf a banana is it Subwoofer?
Yes, Subwoofer, as in,
Absolutely
yeah.
fantastic band, hilarious. Well, I would like to mention that Ireland has announced their entry to Eurovision.
Mm.
I didn't think I'd mention Eurovision this week, but I am
Yes.
mentioning it this week. And
Yes.
it's, I believe, one of the first non-binary identified contestants in the Eurovision
Oh,
that is competing and representing Ireland. However, I do
yes.
believe that we have run out of time.
Oh, have we?
We will be playing out with our last track of the day. So earlier we had Living in Love by Jess Ray,
Hmm.
and we will be playing out with Too Much by Waveform Mounting. And I have been Luke Smith.
And I've been Sebastian, and thank you for listening.
I'm falling out of step with myself. I'm falling out of touch. I'm falling into debt with myself. These hours cost too much, too much, too much, too much, too much. I'm losing out on sleep over this. Am I losing my mind? I'm lost, I'm way too deep into this. I've lost way too much time, too much, too much, too much, too much. I sometimes wonder when I lie there wide awake if it would be better for everyone's sake if I didn't care so much, if I didn't feel so much, if I didn't know so much.
Hi, I'm Sohaila Smith from Shelburne, and you're listening to 102.7 CKMS Radio Waterloo.ca.
In the tradition of winter storytelling, you are invited to a celebration of Indigenous film. Come to the Princess Twin Cinemas in Waterloo to see Run Woman Run on February 5th, Beans on February 12th, and Bones of Crows on February 28th. Sponsored by the CFUW-KW in response to the calls for action of the National Truth and Reconciliation Commission, this film series is free. Join us for the films and for follow-up discussion with Indigenous representatives from the University of Waterloo. Visit the Princess Cinema website at princesscinemas.com for showtimes.
Welcome to the Civic Hub. The Civic Hub is a shared community space for grassroots and small nonprofit organizations working to make lives better for everyone in Waterloo region. Partner organizations come from a range of fields: environmental justice, democratic reform, arts and culture, anti-poverty, anti-racism, human rights, ethno-cultural and newcomer support, technology, peace and nonviolence, spirituality, and well-being. On the show, we welcome one of our partners to the Civic Hub. Today, on the Civic Hub, we'll be welcoming Doug Jones from the Waterloo Region Community Gardens. Doug's a little bit late getting here, So we'll be with him in just a few minutes.
Would you look for the signs if you know them? Would you hear the warnings if you heard? So far away. The air is thicker with the smells of all concealed. Their ashes fill every corner of our lungs. So far away. Ooh, isn't it a wonder that the trees and the mountains seem to feel when the smoke comes? It swallows the whole earth in a pale shroud. As darkness falls, we fall to our knees and breathe. Will we find our way so far away? Like children, we danced and we frolicked with sparks of hope and dreams in our hearts. So far away. The night as the world burns around us and succumbs to the everlasting light. So far away. Isn't it a wonder that the trees and the mountains seem to fade when the smoke comes and swallows the whole earth in a pale shroud? As darkness falls, we fall to our knees and breathe. Will we find our way so far away? So far away. So far away. So far away. So far away. Isn't it a wonder that the trees and the mountains seem to fade? We wonder, will we find our way so far away? till you make it, make it, make it, make it. Stop. Let's dance on the bombs of this mirage. Now it's all just goodbyes. Quiet quitting, no one tries without a backward glance. Things are breaking down, and no one thinks there's a chance. Now who will take a stance? Let's dance on the bones of this elegant mirage.
Today, on Welcome to the Civic Hub, we have Doug Jones from the Community Gardens of Waterloo Region. Doug, welcome to the Civic Hub.
Thank you, Bob.
Tell me, What are the community gardens of Waterloo Region?
That's an interesting question since we've been organizing since 1997 under the Waterloo Region Garden Council. Teresa Schumulis was starting that up to help people to create and establish and run community gardens in the region, the urban areas of the region primarily. And now we're up to almost 100 community gardens, and we've changed to the Waterloo Region Community Garden Network in 2017 so we could do more fundraising to further those goals of supporting community gardens.
So there used to be several different organizations that were operating independently.
No, the community gardens all operate by themselves for sure. So about 100 of them
Still do.
are operating as part of the Waterloo Region Community Garden Network. And this year we established a new community garden, 18 acres on rented land at Petersburg. And using the Petersburg model, people planted, tended, and harvested 16 acres out there at Petersburg. So we're really working now to work on food security, the inclusion agendas, helping people feel a sense of belonging and able to participate in growing the foods that they want to grow for themselves.
Okay. 18 acres is substantial.
It's a major expansion, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're anticipating more, so we might have 22 acres this year. That's not in addition to the 18, but including the 18. And there's a potential for 10 more acres in the south end of Kitchener. So the people have been saying that they want land to farm. They want land in the urban area that they can get access to, and that's the way we've seen our job right now is who wants land, and we'll try to help you get that and establish a community garden.
There's a community garden just around the corner from where I live. And there, the plots are about the size of a queen-size bed.
Yep.
And there's maybe 6 of them. And, you know, that's hardly even an acre. That's probably, you know, a quarter of an acre or less. Is that more typical for community gardens?
Yeah, it is more typical for community gardens. So a lot of it is sort of recreational. The real big advantage is that parents and children get to go out together, and the children can learn some of the skills from their parents. So we're very, very interested in that idea. I come from a farm background and did my master's on the role of shared work and the parent-child relationship. And kids that learn to work with their parents learn to appreciate the relationship more, learn to value work, learn work skills. And the larger garden plots are helping people to be able to feed themselves, their families, and their communities. So that's the way it worked this year, and we're going to continue that.
You
in
said
the
something
future.
about food security. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, food insecurity starts for many people when they have to buy food, period. They're not used to buying food. They're used to growing their own food and providing their own food. So food insecurity is not just not having enough money to buy food. It's about feeling, you know, that I can't take care of myself without land. And this is very much a common experience for people who come from farms that are used to producing their own food on their farms.
Okay. I'm a city boy, so that's a foreign concept to me.
Yeah, it's exactly right. We're about 3 generations away from that now in our culture, and it's showing. The kids are wondering, what can we do that's of meaning? You know, how can we involve ourselves? How can we be participating in adaptation to climate change, which is inevitable? Our food security chains are in jeopardy right now, like our food chains are in jeopardy, and growing local food helps people do on many, many levels.
And the organization, Community Gardens Waterloo Region, is now a partner in the Civic Hub.
Yeah, I guess we are, right? Partner, is that the right term? Yeah,
Partner is
okay.
the term.
Yeah, okay.
What does the Civic Hub do for you?
Well, the Civic Hub helps us to connect with other people who are feeling insecure for various reasons and who may want to be able to participate in growing food, but to know also that local food is available for them and that people are taking action, I think is really meaningful for people.
Okay. When you joined the Civic Hub, how did that come about?
It came about by just finding out about Civic Hub and realizing that this was a grassroots organization that was trying to help build community and had the support of the region to do so. And we see this region as a really good place to be, a good place to live. And that social development center's outreach through the Civic Hub was meaningful because it helped to connect the people that really want to be heard. I think it's a very, very important outreach that people get heard, their voices are validated, and there's action steps taken to help them to meet their needs.
Right. And when you got involved with the Civic Hub, what sort of things did you see in the Civic Hub that would directly affect how you operated?
Yeah, so space, opportunities for meeting and gathering, and a chance to build relationship. The relationships are vital, that we get to know each other, and that's how we can do things together, right?
Right, right. How did you get involved? you, Doug Jones. What made Doug Jones become a member of the Waterloo Region Community Gardens?
So my background's farming, and I grew up on the campus at the University of Guelph, and my father used to farm, but he left the farm and came into an urban setting, and he wasn't trying to be mean when he said this, but he'd look at me and my brother when we were 9 and 10, and he'd say, "I don't know what good you boys are. There's no farm." And so I went farming to reclaim that part of my heritage again, and I realized the importance of this ability to work with our parents, to share the skill set, to do something that's meaningful, meaning tangible. We can actually see the results when we plant food, plant seeds, and see them grow and tend them and then harvest them and then benefit from eating them. So that's how I get involved, right? This is a lifelong interest in global food security. And when I was growing up, there would be 3 billion people on the planet, and Dad would say, "Doug, there's 3 billion people on this planet. We have to figure out how to feed them."
Yeah.
So I think it's a real continuation, right, of this sort of little boy's sort of imagination that, we might be able to help to feed the people, right? And that's so exciting all by itself. Hope that answers your question, Bob. There's still a lot of kid in me in this one. Yeah.
I guess your dad was definitely one of those people who felt out of sorts without being able to farm.
No, he was fine with his decision. It was the next generation, right? So as a psychotherapist, what I'm interested in is intergenerational family transmission. So burden and benefit from what we gain from our parents. And so he didn't know how to parent without a farm. So very clearly, this was a really important phenomenon. So we emigrated here to Ontario from Prince Edward Island. It's a whole different culture. And so we participate in knowing what it's like to leave our culture, not because of trauma, for example. This is a choice for our family. But we leave our culture and we come to a new place and we have to find new ways of doing things, new ways of taking care of our children. The Indian example is really the most pronounced one that we have. There's a movie called Mississippi Masala that captures some of this really, really well around what it's like for the parents to see their children going out into this strange culture and doing things that are completely unusual, maybe anathema to the way the parents want to do things. And the reconciliation between the parents and the children, because that immigration experience is really, really important to know how to manage well. The common thing that food represents this common entity, for people, that everything rallies around food. If you don't produce enough food for yourself, we can't survive. We have to have enough rain. We have to have enough opportunity, right? Land and opportunity to grow food. So it's profoundly important for those reasons as well as survival.
I guess that sort of sums up the philosophy of Community Gardens Waterloo Region.
Yeah, the philosophy is, I hadn't thought about it in terms of philosophy, I don't think directly, but what it is we're creating ways of belonging. Like this is about belonging, right? And where belonging means that we can feel at peace, where peace means we can, perceive that there will be justice, and we don't have to fear anymore. We have to fear authority, that we can feel true sense that we belong here, we are welcome here. That's really what the garden's all about.
And that's what the garden provides by giving people more contact with the land.
Yeah, and a chance for many different cultures to know each other, right? And it's really hard to hate someone when you know them.
Yeah.
If you really know someone, how do you hate them? It's not possible, right?
Community gardens are a way for people to get to know each other, as well as to satisfy their needs for agriculture.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
What does the Waterloo Region Community Garden need in the way of supplies and resources?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we think of this in terms of a hand-up model. And basically we learned this from Kiva. KIV.org is a microloan agency based out of California. And they treat people as business partners who want a hand up, not a handout. And so the hand-up model helps people to say, here's the opportunities that you need. You want access to land. You want access to the infrastructures like wells, sheds, things like that, then that's the startup. So where the municipality comes into play is that they can put that infrastructure into place, and then people can continue to do the things that they need to do to grow the food, right? It's really a very, very important hand-up model that we're working with.
Right.
I didn't say that very well, but
Yeah, yeah. What about actual funding? I mean, you've got 18 acres coming to you. Is that donated, or is that something that the community gardens has to purchase?
No, we rent that land. We have a long-term
Oh.
rental contract, and we rent that land, and the farmers rent it back from us. And so that's we provide water, and we provide the shed and some tools and the land in return for that rent.
Right, and those tools and such are being used by the community garden members to till their plots.
That's right.
It's not something for the farmer to make use of. The farmer who rents the land isn't the one who's actually using the land there.
Yeah, they are actually using the land.
Well,
Oh,
still-
it's
still
their
doing
land.
that
Yeah,
too.
they have a right to come back to it in perpetuity as long as we have the rental agreement. And, we have a long-term rental agreement now, so definitely they can come back to their own land. They're nurturing that land. They're growing the fertility base. They're growing tremendous amounts of food out there.
Okay, that's more complex than I thought it was. I figured it's simply somebody coming in there, tilling a bed, planting some peas, and harvesting at the end of the summer, and that was the end of it.
No, this is their farm. These are their farms. This is their land, right? Yeah,
Okay,
that's the way it translates. This is what it is about, pride and ownership, continuity,
Right.
belonging has depth, right? It has longevity.
I'm sure there's a lot of interest in Waterloo region, especially for city boys like me who want to get into the land, into some agriculture. How can people get involved?
Yeah, so they can go to the website, but contact us by email. The website's not complete yet. We have got move a lot of data over around the from the old website still around community gardens. They can contact the coordinators at community gardens, but I'll be meeting with a fellow from Nigeria tomorrow, and we're talking about land in Bloomingdale coming up as part of the community garden network, and we're thinking the Nigerian community might move into that area. We have land in the south end of Kitchener that's coming up as well that we're exploring, and we're looking at people being able to do what they want to do in terms of providing for their families and communities.
Okay.
Bob, I would have to say, like, the food insecurity is global right now. Like, the global food chains are really in doubt in so many ways due to climate change. And
Yeah.
it's an absolute tragedy that so many people are starving and hungry in many parts of the world. And I think we have obligations in many ways to be able to help people feel secure by producing their own food here. And in some cases, if they decrease their food costs here, there's more money for them to be able to send to their families in their areas of great need.
I see.
Yeah, so this has global implications for people that are here. The diaspora is here. They're still deeply involved emotionally with what's going on in the rest of the world, and it's traumatic.
I've heard something like that, where we don't have a food shortage problem, we have a food distribution problem.
Yeah, we can grow lots of food, but who controls it? Like Bungie and Viterra just amalgamated a few weeks ago. They're two of the largest food companies in the world. Nihilus puts out, we got an AI app, will help you maximize profit, but on the other hand, will help you poor people find cheap food. Those two things are compromising. There's a potential power in the hands of this large corporation, and right now we have people starving in the world. What role does this corporation play? What responsibility do they have in terms of feeding the people that are starving now? They're not doing it. So will they help me when I'm starving? I don't think so. I think I have to take care of myself. I think that's what food security looks like if you're taking the global picture.
And when you're looking at food security, community gardens are one way of addressing that.
That's right. And we will broaden this outreach. We'll be working with local producers. The people that are growing their own food are not buying the CSAs. We're not competing with the local growers now. And we're not competing with the people who are going to the grocery stores and are not interested in CSAs or local ag. So this is a grassroots outreach that's helping the people that really care about these issues, that feel about these issues, but also know how to work for themselves to help resolve those issues.
Right. And one more time, the best way to contact the community gardens of Waterloo Region?
Yeah, waterloo.region.community.gardens@gmail.com is the best email address.
Okay. Doug Jones from the Community Garden Network of Waterloo Region. Thank you so much for coming in to Welcome to the Civic Hub, and welcome to the Civic Hub.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
You've been listening to Welcome to the Civic Hub, where we welcome community partners to the Civic Hub. Civic Hub is online at civichubwr.org, You can reach the Civic Hub by email at civichub@waterlooregion.org. Welcome to the Civic Hub is produced at the studio of CKMS-FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. The show is sponsored by the Social Development Center of Waterloo Region. The executive producer is Alexander Petrovich. Ritika Sharmali is the producer and host, and I'm Bob Jonkman. Civic Hub is supported by the Region of Waterloo Upstream Fund. The theme music is A Good Bass by Kumiku from the Free Music Archive and used under a Creative Commons CC0 license.
LGBT Youth Line. I went to youthline.ca and ended up chatting with a peer support volunteer there. And now I feel a little less alone, knowing that there are people out there just like me who I can talk to.
LGBT Youth Line is a support line by and for queer, trans, and two-spirit youth 29 and under across Ontario. Our service is open from 4 to 9:30 p.m. Sunday to Friday. Youth can call, text, chat, or email with us. Not a youth but want to support us? You can tell the young people in your life about Youthline and support us with a donation. Find all of our contact info at youthline.ca. We're here for you.
Hey, it's Lucy King here. Thanks so much for listening to Making Contact. If you want to support our work all year long, please consider signing up to make a monthly donation. Just $5 a month will help fund our social justice reporting all year long. Now, here's the show.
Our system is in too many ways broken.
The way we see the world shapes the way that we treat it.
This is Making Contact.
On today's Making Contact, we're talking about Black history in Oklahoma.
Someone asked, like, what would you want to get people to get from the series? And I think one of my number one response was healing.
Kalalea made the critically acclaimed podcast series Blind Spot, Tulsa Burning. It covers the rise of Greenwood, a prosperous Black neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it also tells the story of a terrible massacre there in 1921.
Greenwood has been portrayed in all these shows and documentaries, and we kind of think like we know everything there is to know about Greenwood, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Stay with us. Before we start, I want to let you know that in today's episode, we're going to talk about a 1921 attack on a Black neighborhood, Greenwood, Oklahoma. The focus of this interview will not be the specific terrors of the event, but we wanted to make you aware that this episode includes